From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Speaking with the Enemy.
Oh, it's a big one on Friday. The Ticats in Toronto to take on the Argonauts. A lot of East Division playoff implications on the line, and discuss that as we're speaking with the enemy, Mike Hogan. He's not my enemy. He's my friend, but he does work for the enemy. And, It's been an interesting week. We had our caretaker, Bob Young, kind of shout out your social media team for some good tweets, but I do want to start with Angelo Mosca, because as passionate as you are about the Argos, I know he had a special place in your heart.
Oh my God, I loved Angie. How could you not? I'm somebody who appreciates the history of the league and the history of the rivalry and of the Ticats. And swear, Angelo Mosca is Hamilton and the Ticats to me. Spectacularly nice man, was always kind to me, and I always look forward to our conversations before the game. Like, I'd get there, you know me, I'm really early. I get there 3 or 4 hours before a game, and at Old Ivor Wynn, I can never remember which was north because it's turned around.
Yeah.
In the Argos side, sort of where the Argos and the Ticats kind of shared that corner of the end zone, Angie would usually sit there and would just get caught up for 15 or 20 minutes every time. And there were 2 Argos, and this sums up Angelo and the rivalry perfectly. There were 2 Argos, both former Ticats as well, who would always go up and sort of kiss the ring of Angelo Mosca. And you can, if you think about it, it'll be easy. It was Adriano Belli and Mike O'Shea, guys who played exactly the same way that Angie did, who appreciated the history of the sport the way that Angie did, and just laid everything out on the field. I watched one preseason game that the Argos weren't involved with, and I went to Hamilton to watch it, and I ended up sitting next to Angie up in the press box. And the stories he was telling me is just a day I'll never forget. So, the last time I saw him wasn't easy, because we all know what Alzheimer's can do to people, and unfortunately it happened to my aunt. So that was tough to see. But man, when I think of the history of football in Hamilton, without question, one name comes to the forefront first. And even as an Argo fan, and I think this may surprise people as well, my favorite football picture of any level is Angie's last game at Ivor Wynn, when he's looking up at the fans, and there's that small press box in the stadium, and it's a black and white picture, and he's got the cup over his head. It is such an iconic photo, and I just, we're all going to miss him. I haven't seen him, obviously, in the last 3 or 4 years of his life, but man, he's going to be missed on the Hamilton football scene. Just love the guy to death. Well
said. All right, let's talk about this game on Friday. I got to ask, because if Lewis Ward doesn't have the worst game of his life, if Camacho doesn't, butcher a kick with no time left, if the Ticats don't miss an extra point, if that miracle kick into the wind doesn't hit, I mean, are the Argos for real, Mike? Are they for real?
What's the line that Bill Parcells had, that the only part of the sports section that doesn't lie is the standings, right?
They are in first place. They are in first place. But it increases. I'm not the pressure, but this is obviously a huge game. There's
Sure.
No way to kind of understate that. But I mean, do the Argos kind of need a win to not even convince the rest of the league, but even convince themselves that they're good enough?
I think what the team needs to do is just put 4 quarters together. Like we saw last game with the miracle kick that Beattie had. What may be overlooked is McLeod Bethel Thompson went off for over 300 yards passing in the second half. Yeah. But where was that in the first half? People are overlooking in Ottawa. Did the Argos scrape one out? Sure, absolutely. But McLeod Bethel Thompson in the fourth quarter was 10 of 12 for 88 yards, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. In the second half, after, by their own standards, not a great first half, here's a stat that's kind of mind-boggling. In the second half against Ottawa, the Argos defense had more sacks than Ottawa completed passes. They had 3 sacks. Duck Hodges, the media darling that he is and may be eventually, completed 2 passes in the second half. Ottawa's total offensive yards in the fourth quarter was -7. So when people are looking at the struggles that the Argos had offensively for three quarters, nobody's talking about the defense and how good the defense is. If that defense is just even a mediocre defense, then they don't win. But the Argos are able somehow to be able to pick that up. One thing that's not been talked about as well, when people have talked about the kicking struggles of the opponents, do you not think that having Sean Oakman in the middle of the line at 6'9" and he's able to basically tie his shoes without bending over, his arms along, do you think that doesn't have an effect on a kicker? Honestly, nobody's talking. I think that's got to play into a little bit, because Sean Oakman is almost blocking a punt or a field goal attempt just by doing that.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
it's yeah. No, I think it's a great point, and obviously my phrasing was a little in jest there on,
I know
whether or not. But again, yeah, 100%. And I mean, the fact is they're 6-0, they're 5-0 at home. They're winning football games. They're making that a very tough place to play, and they want this East Final. They want to be able to host the East Final, regardless of how many Ticats.
And so does Montreal.
Yeah.
No question. And
regardless of how many. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's what all three teams want, right? If you're Hamilton, you want to win the East. As much as you want the bye week, you want to see the Argos and Montreal just knock the crap out of one another. We're in the same way. How physical would a game between Montreal and Hamilton be in a playoff game? Do you think the Argos wouldn't like to be sit back going, okay, guys, let's go? I mean, that to me, that's the biggest part, is the bye week, because any one of these three teams is capable of beating the other on any given Sunday, so to speak. And I think that there are positives and negatives for each team in each matchup with each team, right? The Argos had historically this season problems stopping the run. Think we want Stanback in the first round, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that kind of work in each team's favor against another team. So I really think that whoever gets that first round bye has a huge advantage in trying to get to the break.
That's such a great point, because, I mean, well, we have to look back at 2015, the last time we saw three East teams actually in the playoffs. But three East teams, I mean, all in the hunt for in the hunt. I mean, that's huge, and such a great point that I think the bye week has never been more important than, like you said, when any team can beat any team. I want to get to Dinwiddie for a second, because the expectations coming into the season for the Argos, they did have a lot of free agents. They did bring in a lot of names, but has he succeeded expectations for what you think they were set for him as a first-year head coach in the CFL?
I think he's meeting in a lot of areas and exceeding in others. When Mike Clemens hired him, he looked at, sort of the type A football personality that is Ryan Dinwiddie, and the way that he approaches the game, the aggressiveness, and just his mindset, and loved that, and admitted, okay, he's going to make some mistakes along the way because he's a first-year head coach. And has Dinwiddie made some mistakes? Sure, absolutely. And have those lessons been learned? You would hope so, to the point where, he talked about after the timeout, not realizing that the BC had a timeout. Now on his call sheet, he's got that there. So, lesson learned. Okay, now all I've got to do, if there's a timeout, scratch that off, and now I know they've got one left or none left. So, lessons learned. So I think that in that aspect, he's doing what was expected. He's making some mistakes. Fortunately, in the last two games, it didn't cost the Argos a win, and they still have that slight advantage right now over Hamilton. And the best thing from an Argo perspective is destiny is in the Argos' hands. Doesn't matter what Hamilton does, doesn't matter what Montreal does. From the Argo perspective, we win this game on Friday night, we win the East, period. So that's in a pretty good position. And after the 2 years that Argo fans have had to go through prior to this season, just being in the playoffs is great. Having this opportunity to clinch home field would be just humongous.
I have a feeling like Curly Gittins Jr. is probably enemy number one here after what he did at Tim Hortons Field on Thanksgiving, making some incredible catches. But, I mean, that right side of the field with Brissett, with Gittins Jr., I mean, two really good Canadian depths and maybe a bit of a surprise receivers. But what have you seen from them, and how has that allowed Dinwiddie, McLeod Bethel-Thompson to kind of spread the field a little bit better, having confidence in just about anybody on the field?
Yeah, they picked apart that field side against Hamilton, and Curley was certainly the beneficiary of that on the Thanksgiving Day game. Curley has turned into the guy that the organization thought he could be when he played at Laurier. And I know it's totally different level, but if you go back and you look at Curley Gittens Jr. play there, he was a highlight reel every week. How often does a receiver win a league MVP? Set the U Sports record with 75 catches in 1 year, was all conference 4 years in a row, all Canadian twice. Like he's got everything you want. And the one thing that goes under the radar a little bit is how good a blocker he is. So there are times now where they may have hesitated earlier in the season to bring him in from Z and bring him closer to the box, but now they can flip that around too, depending on matchups. So with him, and you mentioned Brissett with big catch, and Breskison is back now to play there, and he was one of the main free agent acquisitions, but he was hurt in the second game of the season in Winnipeg. Just got back last week, and also on that field side, you've got Ricky Collins Jr. So there's some really good receivers over there. And then on the other side, depending on his health, DeVaris Daniels is back for sure, but Eric Rogers is getting close. We'll see if he's ready to go on Friday. So it's a really good receiving core. And, we just added Josh Huff, who was on pace for what would have been a 1,000-yard season in an 18-game schedule. So, yeah, it's a really good crew, and with guys who have been in those supporting roles like Drez Anderson, who had a nice game last week, and Damien Jean-Pierre, it's a really deep, talented group.
Is the importance of, this game, it's obviously very, very important no matter what, but, is it amped up even more by the quick turnaround to host Edmonton? 4 days later, because if they lose this game, you got to get up for Edmonton, right? And then you got to be able. So that's a tough test for a coaching staff to really put these 2 days together with 2 games in 5 days.
It is a challenge to the coaching staff, but at the same time, what I find remarkable about, and the other challenge is the Argos haven't seen the Elks all year. It's the only team we haven't played this year. So that adds to it. There's no old film to go back and take a look at. But we're talking about this. Oh, my God, how can they possibly do this? How can they play on a Friday and a Tuesday? Days off. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, play Tuesday. NFL games every week. Play Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's a game on Thursday. It's exactly the same thing that the NFL does every week, and nobody talks about that. So it's like, is it ideal? No. And even when I was back in my radio days, I always found and talked about how sloppy at times the games on Thursday could be, and how even though they may have been entertaining, just they weren't as crisp and as good as the Sunday to Sunday guys, because they had very little rest. For a visiting team, it's day off travel, day off play. So that can be tough. So. It is what it is, but it's nothing that guys who have played in the NFL and have played on a Thursday night haven't gone through before.
All right, the classic question before we let you go: the Argos will win this game on Friday if blank. Finish that sentence.
Every time we've done this, it's been big plays. Most big plays win, and that's the way it's gone. Every game this year, the more big plays have won the game, and it's probably going to come down to that: turnovers and big plays. If Toronto can contain Hamilton's running game, no matter who's in the backfield, I think that goes a long way toward that. And same thing, we'll find out tomorrow if DJ Foster's back or not, but with the possibility of DJ and AJ, who led in the backfield, if they can establish the run as well, that bodes well as well. But I still think it's most big plays offensively, defensively, special teams. To me, those 30-plus yard plays on Friday night are going to be the backbreakers.
It'll be the 4th time these teams see each other, and, they're both hoping to see each other a 5th time in a few weeks. Where that game will be played will be a big question as well. Hoagie, always love catching up with you. Have a great call on Friday. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Even though you still consider me your enemy.
No! Hoagie, thanks for doing this. This has been Speaking with the Enemy with my friend Mike Hogan. Join us on Friday when the Ticats travel to Toronto to take on the Argos.
Speaking with the Enemy. Dropping twice weekly before every Ticats game. Like and subscribe to get inside the enemy's head.